Chloe Miller never would have imagined that the husband who'd used despicable means to win her would die in an explosion trying to save her from a kidnapping. As I lay dying in a pool of my own blood, I told her weakly, "If there's a next life, I hope I never meet you again." Chloe, holding my blood-soaked body, sobbed uncontrollably. She had hated me for half her life, yet when danger struck, I was the only one willing to die for her. Only then did she realize her love for me had already seeped into her bones. She just never dared to admit it, so she picked up the remaining explosives and lit the fuse. "Ethan, I'm coming to you to atone." Boom! But when she opened her eyes again, she had returned to the day she was drugged in her past life. In that life, Chloe and I had slept together, only to be discovered by her sister, who burst in with a group of people. She had been so close to marrying the man she loved, but after the scandal, she was forced to marry me instead. Chloe thought I had set her up, so she hated me for half her life. For the entire decade of our marriage, we made each other miserable. Chloe had wished countless times to return to this turning point, but now that she was actually back, she felt no joy. She knew the truth now. Her sister, Isabel, was the one who had drugged her. Just then, the door creaked open. A portly figure shuffled toward her. "Hehehe, little beauty, I'm here." Hearing his voice, Chloe's heart sank. Asterisk, not Ethan. Could this be the man Isabel originally set me up with? Asterisk, in her past life, she had already been slipping out of consciousness by this point, completely unaware of what was happening, only that she had ended up with me. "Never thought I, Larry, would get so lucky," the man muttered, inching closer. Getting a taste of a high society girl. Fighting back a wave of nausea, Chloe fumbled for objects on the coffee table and hurled them at him. Larry dodged them easily, rubbing his hands together as he approached the sofa. "You might as well give in. No one's coming to save you." As he spoke, his greasy hand reached for her. Chloe grabbed the last cup on the table and threw it at his hand, but he swatted it away effortlessly. The cup shattered on the floor. Larry grinned smugly. "Nothing left to throw now, huh?" Hearing his words, Chloe's heart filled with despair. She was running out of strength. Just then, the door was kicked open. A second later, I slammed my foot into Larry's side. The fat man shrieked, begging for mercy. "Let me go. I didn't do anything. I swear I didn't even touch a single hair on her head. Someone else sent me." "I don't want to hear it." I brought my foot down on his hand, grinding my heel into it until I heard the sickening crunch of bone. His hand was definitely broken. Nearby, the moment Chloe saw me, she seemed to lose all control, lunging toward me and tearing at my jacket. After having someone drag Larry away, I took off my coat, wrapped it around Chloe, and carried her out of the room. In my past life, it was in this very room that I'd saved Chloe. But faced with the girl I loved, I lost control. I blamed myself for it afterward, filled with regret. But thinking about it now, there must have been something in the air, some kind of incense. I wasn't in my right mind back then either. With that thought, I carried Chloe to my car and drove to the nearest hotel. I pinned her flailing hands, holding her tight against me. Her face was flushed a deep crimson, and I was breaking out in a sweat. I couldn't bear to look at her any longer. I turned away and took a deep breath. "Chloe, this life, I'm letting you go. Everything went wrong starting from this moment, so this is where we fix it." The Grand Astoria Hotel, Deluxe Suite. I opened the door, tossed the woman in my arms onto the bed, and called for a doctor. Just then, Chloe's hands began to wander. "Hot, I'm so hot. Ethan." She was murmuring my name. For a second, I thought I was imagining it, but when I moved closer to the bed, I knew for sure she was calling for me over and over. Chloe felt like she was burning up, her mind a complete fog. She tugged frantically at her clothes, desperate for cool air to soothe the burning sensation. Suddenly, her scorching hand found something cool, like a block of ice, and she clung to it. But the coolness tried to pull away, and Chloe panicked, wrapping her arms and legs around it, coiling her whole body onto it. "Don't go. My hands are burning, my lips are burning. So hot. Help me." I looked at the woman coiling around me like a snake and, without a moment's hesitation, pried her off me and tossed her back onto the bed. In my past life, seeing her like this, combined with whatever was in that incense, I never would have been able to stop myself. But now, I just looked away coldly and took 2 steps back. Remembering her cold, merciless expression from our past life, I took a deep breath and warned myself, "Ethan, leave her alone. She only hates you. Chloe, in this life, we have nothing to do with each other, and we never will. No attachments, no seeing each other again." That's what I told myself, but when I saw Chloe's eyes, I was frozen for a few seconds. In my past life, it was those very eyes that had captured my soul from the first moment I saw them. From then on, I thought of her day and night, wanting no one else. "Ethan, oh Ethan, don't you dare get lost in those eyes again this time." I silently warned myself, forcing my mind to replay the memory of her cold, indifferent gaze, a look she'd given me every day for 10 years, as a constant reminder to stay alert. A few moments later, the doorbell rang. I snapped out of it and pulled the covers over the girl. It was a female doctor, the Carter family's private physician. A PhD from Northwood University's medical school, she was brilliant and quickly took care of Chloe's condition. After I sent the doctor away, the room was finally quiet. Chloe lay peacefully on the bed, her eyes closed, the flush gone from her cheeks. She was surprisingly captivating even with her eyes closed. After a long while, I went and sat on the sofa. The next morning, Chloe's eyes flew open. She shot up in bed. She remembered everything. She was back. She had returned to the night she was drugged. Her head was pounding. She pressed her hands to her temples for a moment, slumping back against the headboard. When she looked down at her clothes, she saw they were the same ones she'd been wearing. They were rumpled, but she was certain nothing had happened. There were no marks on her body, no unusual sensations. In her past life, she had woken up sore all over, especially in certain places, her skin covered in marks I had left. This is a hotel? Why am I in a hotel? This is different from last time. What changed? She distinctly remembered that the last person she saw before blacking out was me. As Chloe was trying to piece things together, my voice cut through her thoughts. You're awake. The sudden male voice startled her. She instinctively pulled the covers up higher, her eyes filled with caution. Even though I'd already decided to stay away from Chloe, seeing that wary look in her eyes still stung. When Chloe realized it was me, her tense body instantly relaxed. But then, confusion clouded her face as she pointed at me. Nothing happened? How is this different from last time? And you seem different too, Ethan. Did I end up in a parallel universe? While Chloe's mind raced with wild theories, I just watched her calmly. Don't worry, I didn't touch you. I had a doctor come by yesterday. At my words, Chloe froze. She couldn't understand it. Why hadn't I touched her? She stared at my face, and the image of me from 10 years in her future slowly merged with the man standing before her now. Seeing her silent, I frowned. Something felt off. Chloe was acting far too calm. Aside from a flicker of panic the moment she saw me, she had been completely quiet. In our past life, when we were discovered in that room, Chloe had woken up frantic, devastated, and sobbing with despair, her eyes burning with hatred for me. Even though nothing happened this time, her calmness was unsettling, and her expression was hard to read. But it didn't matter. I wasn't going to get tangled up with her in this life. Staying with her for one night was more than enough. Chloe, I won't bother you again. We won't be seeing each other anymore. No attachments. No seeing each other again. Chloe, in the next life, let's not meet. In a flash, my dying words echoed in her ears, and a possibility sparked in her mind. Her eyes widened. She threw off the covers, stumbled out of bed, and grabbed my arm just as I was about to leave. Ethan, you came back too, didn't you? My eyes shot wide open, instantly understanding what she meant. But before I could say a word, Chloe threw herself into my arms, wrapping them tightly around my waist as tears soaked through my shirt. Ethan, you idiot, why did you die with me? I misunderstood you for so many years. Thank God we both came back. Heaven gave us a second chance. This time I'll be good to you. Anything you want, I'll give it to you. I looked down at the woman in my arms, my emotions a tangled mess. I thought I was the only one who'd returned, but somehow we both had. In our past life, Chloe hated me, and I had used every trick in the book to marry her. She never fought, never yelled, never even spoke. She treated me like I was invisible, refusing to say a single word to me or even look in my direction. 10 years of marriage, 10 years of neglect, 10 years of the silent treatment. The memory still made my chest ache. It wasn't that I never blamed her, but I couldn't bring myself to. It was all my own doing. I was the one who'd stopped at nothing to marry her. She was my choice, this marriage was my choice, and I had to live with the pain. But this time, we both had the right to choose again. I closed my eyes for a second, then opened them and gently pushed her away. Chloe, this life, I'm letting you go. So please let me go too. Go love who you want to love. Live the life you want to live. Everything between us ends now. Hearing my words, Chloe went completely still, looking up at me. She shook her head frantically and grabbed my hand. Don't say that. Let's just be together. Please don't leave me. My gaze fell to our joined hands, and I slowly slipped mine from her grasp. Chloe, do you have any idea how painful it was to love you? So painful that I have no hope left. I can't believe you when you say you'll love me, and I can't believe we could ever be happy together. Chloe stared helplessly at her empty palm. Can't you just give me one more chance? Don't you love me anymore? No, it hurts too much. Just let me go. With that, I turned and walked away, hardening my heart and never looking back. Watching me leave, Chloe slid to the floor. After a long moment, she hugged her knees, curling into a tight ball and weeping silently. What was she going to do? The man who had loved her for over a decade truly didn't love her or want her anymore. Nobody wanted her. From now on, she was all alone. Chloe cried until she was exhausted, finally drifting into a deep sleep. She dreamed of me, the me who was always orbiting around her, trying desperately to get her attention. But when she woke, the hotel room was empty, and so was her heart. Chloe wiped away her tears and began to think clearly. The misunderstanding between us had started with that setup, and the one behind it all was her stepsister, Isabel. She had to go home. She had a score to settle. Maple Creek Estates, a gated community near New York City. Chloe knocked on the door, her face grim. In the living room, Isabel and her brother Leo were playing video games while her stepbrother, Noah Thompson, scrolled on his phone, occasionally chiming in on their conversation. Mrs. Miller was in the kitchen with the housekeeper. Maria, Mr. Miller is coming home today. Let's make that tofu soup and the special crab dish Isabel loves. And make some chicken soup for Leo and Noah to build up their strength. Chloe changed into her slippers in the entryway, listening in silence. She was used to her mother overlooking her, but it still stung. Her mother remembered her husband's favorite food, her stepson's favorite, her youngest daughter's and son's favorites, but she never remembered Chloe's. Then Mrs. Miller added, "Oh, and Mrs. Davis and Ryan are coming over later. Make a few extra special dishes for our guests." Hearing Ryan's name, Chloe froze. In her past life, Ryan had been there when she and I were discovered together. The look of disappointment on his face had been a knife to her heart. The Davis family had been considering a marriage alliance with the Millers, and Mrs. Davis had preferred Chloe, not Isabel. But after the scandal, which both Ryan and his mother had witnessed, Mrs. Davis was disgusted. She never mentioned a match between Chloe and Ryan again, and the marriage alliance shifted to Isabel instead. Eventually, Ryan married Isabel. They were very much in love and had an adorable daughter. Every holiday, when I brought Chloe back to the Miller house, we would run into them. Seeing how sweet they were together always filled Chloe with envy. Snapping back to the present, Chloe stepped into the living room, and it was as if no one even saw her. In the past, she would have gone straight to the kitchen to help, trying to earn her mother's affection through hard work. She hadn't understood back then that some people are just born unloved, and no amount of effort can change that. This time, she ignored everyone in the living room and went straight upstairs to her room. She made a call to her university advisor, intending to get her official records transferred and cut all legal ties with this family. When dinner was ready, Chloe came downstairs. Mrs. Miller was chatting happily with Mrs. Davis, while Isabel hovered around Ryan, calling him her big brother this and that. Leo was glued to his phone, and Noah was talking with Mr. Miller. But the moment she appeared, all conversation stopped. Mrs. Miller blinked. "Chloe, when did you get back? I didn't even see you. Just now. You were probably busy in the kitchen." Chloe didn't go over to serve anyone. Since the scandal hadn't happened in this timeline, Mrs. Davis was still warm toward her, clearly seeing her as a potential daughter-in-law. "Chloe, you're home. Come sit down and eat. A year of college and you look like you've gotten thinner." Looking at Mrs. Davis's cheerful face, all Chloe could picture was the look of utter contempt from her past life. Even though Chloe had been the victim, and Mrs. Davis's reaction was understandable from a certain point of view, she couldn't just let it go. Chloe offered a polite greeting, then chose a seat far from everyone else, pulled out the chair, and began to eat in silence. Mrs. Davis noticed and teased her. "Chloe, why are you sitting all the way over there? You haven't seen Ryan in so long. Are you two strangers now?" At her words, Chloe glanced up, her eyes meeting Ryan's just as he looked over. Seeing this, Isabel's face soured. She hated it when Ryan paid any attention to Chloe. Seeing Chloe perfectly fine, she was puzzled. I arranged for someone last night. How did it fail? Who was she with? After a moment's thought, Isabel asked sweetly, "Chloe, you didn't come home last night. Where were you?" At the same time, Mrs. Miller frowned at Chloe. "You didn't come home last night?" Hearing Isabel's question, Mrs. Davis's brow twitched slightly. She also turned to look at Chloe, waiting for an answer. The Davis family placed a high value on a daughter-in-law's character. Mrs. Davis had liked Chloe because she was highly educated, attending a top-tier university, and because she was quiet, obedient, and seemed trustworthy. Chloe calmly observed everyone's reactions before lying smoothly. "I left the party early last night to meet up with an old friend. It got late, so I just stayed over at her place." Isabel didn't buy it. She knew Chloe didn't really have any close friends here. Was this friend a guy or a girl? A girl. Who? Do I know her? No. Chloe gave a few vague answers, having no desire to continue the conversation. She certainly wasn't going to reveal that Isabel had drugged her. Even if they knew, they wouldn't believe her. And even if they did, they wouldn't blame Isabel. They'd just find a way to excuse her behavior. Seeing Isabel pressing the issue, Leo chimed in with a sneer. Like you have any female friends. We all know that. You were probably out messing around with some guy, which is why you didn't come home. I'm 20 years old. Do I need to report to the family every time I see a friend? You, on the other hand, taking girls to hotels at your age, what right do you have to judge me? Leo was taken aback, shocked that Chloe would actually talk back. What are you talking about? When did I ever take a girl to a hotel? You want me to show them the pictures? At that, Leo's face flushed. So what if I did? Does going to a hotel automatically mean something happened? You're the one with the dirty mind, so you see filth everywhere. Were you there to study? Chloe twisted the knife. Then what were you doing taking a married woman to a hotel? At that, all eyes turned to Leo. Leo's face was a mask of panic. Don't listen to her lies. What married woman? She's the promiscuous one, always trying to seduce men, and now she's just making things up to slander me. The expressions around the table were mixed, but it was clear most of them believed Leo. Chloe had had enough. She shot to her feet, grabbed a glass of water, and threw it in his face. Chloe, are you insane? Leo jumped up, kicking his chair back. If your mouth is that filthy, you should wash it out. No matter what I do, I'm not as disgusting as you. Does wrecking someone's family make you feel proud? That's bullshit. When did I? Leo gritted his teeth, denying everything. Chloe sneered inwardly. In her past life, the woman's husband had shown up at their house, screaming that Leo was a homewrecker. Just then, Noah calmly wiped his hands with a napkin. Chloe, do you have any proof of that? Leo is your brother. You can't just make accusations like that. And what proof did he have for what he said about me? Why does he get to say whatever he wants? Noah was left speechless. Believe what you want. With that, Chloe put down her fork, ignored the stares, and walked back to her room. It was only a matter of time before the husband showed up anyway. Around the dinner table, everyone was stunned. How had the meek, people-pleasing Chloe turned into this? But Chloe didn't care. She was done with them. She didn't want this family anymore. Lying on her bed with her eyes closed, the scene before her death replayed in her mind. To prove that everyone loved her more, Isabel had hired 2 men to stage a fake kidnapping. They were told only one of them could live, and everyone chose Isabel. Just like that, Chloe was abandoned. Isabel had been so smug. What she hadn't counted on was the remote malfunctioning. The explosives went off for real, and no one there survived. But now, Chloe closed her eyes and felt her chest. Her heart was still beating strongly. She was alive. Everyone has an obsession. In my last life, my obsession was her. Hers was family. It was a blended family. Noah was Mr. Miller's son from his first marriage. Isabel and Leo were the children Mrs. Miller had after marrying him. And Chloe, she was just the result of her mother's youthful mistake. Chloe grew up in an orphanage, believing she had no parents. She spent countless nights crying, wishing she had a mom and a dad. Then, when she was 11, a beautifully dressed woman came to the orphanage, looked at her with gentle eyes, and said she was her mother. Mrs. Miller hugged her, overcome with emotion, saying she had finally found her daughter after all these years. The day she left the orphanage was the happiest of Chloe's life. She said goodbye to the matron who had cared for her for so long and went home with her mother. She arrived at the Miller house full of hope. Even when she realized her new father wasn't her biological father, and her new brother wasn't her real brother, she wasn't disappointed. Having a mother was enough. The matron at the orphanage had named her. Later, when her records were filed, her stepfather, Mr. Miller, gave her his last name. It was wonderful. She had a real name, Chloe Miller. Sounded so beautiful. She was surprised to find there were 2 other children in the house, both her mothers. She had a real brother and sister, but her sister wasn't home. She was in the hospital, pale and with all her hair shaved off. Later, with tears in her eyes, Mrs. Miller begged her to save her sister, Isabel. It turned out Isabel had leukemia and needed a bone marrow transplant to survive. At that moment, looking into her mother's red-rimmed eyes, 11-year-old Chloe understood everything. She fell silent for a moment, then pretended she didn't understand and put on a brave smile. "Don't cry, Mom. I'll save my sister. She's going to be okay." The day her sister came home from the hospital, her mother smiled with a pure, genuine joy, happier than she had been even on the day she'd found Chloe. The whole family was happy, and Chloe was happy too. Unfortunately, the sister she saved felt no gratitude. Instead, she was jealous and resentful, hating Chloe for stealing even a sliver of the family's attention. It made Chloe sad. She wanted to tell Isabel that she didn't want much, just a little bit of love. She wasn't trying to steal their parents or their brothers. But Isabel never believed her. Thinking of this, Chloe let out a self-deprecating laugh. To think that this was the family she had been trapped by her entire life. Right now, Chloe only wanted to do one thing. She was waiting for Mr. and Mrs. Miller to leave, for Noah to go to the office, for Leo to go out and fool around somewhere, and for the housekeeper to be on her days off. Finally, only Chloe and Isabel were left in the house. Her moment had come. Chloe packed all of her clothes into a suitcase. Then she went into her mother's room, found the folder with their official documents, and took out her birth certificate. Once that was done, she went to Isabel's room. Isabel was lying on her plush bed watching a reality show, kicking her feet and humming. When she saw Chloe, she didn't even bother to put on her usual sweet sister act. She didn't even call her by name. "What do you want?" Looking at her spoiled, rude sister, Chloe thought of everything from her past life and clenched her fists. "It was you, wasn't it? You drugged me." "Drugged you? What are you talking about?" Isabel feigned ignorance, turning her attention back to her phone. "You know exactly what I'm talking about." Chloe lunged forward, snatched the phone out of Isabel's hand, smashed it on the floor, and pinned her to the bed. Isabel was thin and had always been frail. She was completely powerless against Chloe's weight. "Chloe, what are you doing? Are you insane?" "Isabel, what did I ever do to you to make you do this to me? I'm your sister. I saved your life when you were 11. Why would you do this to me? What are you talking about? Let go of me." "Wait a minute, so who were you with that night? Don't tell me you actually ended up with some random lowlife? Is that why you're having a meltdown?" Isabel suddenly understood, a cruel smirk spreading across her face. But before she could say another word, a hand came flying down. The sharp crack of the slap echoed in the room, and Isabel's cheek stung with pain. "Chloe, you hit me. You ungrateful monster. You deserve it," Chloe cried, slapping Isabel's other cheek just as hard. In her past life, if it wasn't for Isabel, she never would have misunderstood me for all those years. If it wasn't for Isabel, we wouldn't have died. "Chloe, you're crazy. You hit me. Mom and Dad and our brothers are going to kill you for this." Isabel's head was spinning, tears of pain welling in her eyes. No one had ever laid a hand on her in her entire life. Damn Chloe. When her brothers got home, she would make them pay. Chloe's eyes were red as she fought back tears, gritting her teeth and slapping Isabel again and again with all her might. "So what if they won't forgive me? Isabel, you're just scared I'll take your family away from you, aren't you? Fine, they're yours. All yours. I don't want this family anymore." Chloe screamed, her voice breaking as she continued to hit her. Isabel shrieked, shaking her head. "Take them? You're insane. Completely insane." After all, Chloe had always cared more about family than anything. She'd always been desperate for their approval. How could she suddenly not care? But before Isabel could process it, her face went numb. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore and passed out. Chloe didn't know how many times she had struck her, but her own hand was trembling uncontrollably. She finally let go of Isabel, wiped her tears, shouldered her bag, and walked out of the house. Before she left, she took one last look at the home that had never truly been hers and said a silent goodbye. She would never come back here again. Starting today, she was once again a girl without a home. She took a cab to the airport, boarded the flight she had already booked, and flew back to Boston for school. The plane landed in Boston. Back on campus, Chloe found herself walking toward the athletic fields. She remembered a time when someone had staged a huge public confession for her right here. The sky had been filled with pink balloons and brilliant fireworks, with strangers cheering them on. It had ended in failure, because she had rejected me. She ran and I chased. But in this life, I told her I was done. I told her I didn't love her anymore. She had finally lost the boy who was always chasing after her. Chloe kicked a small pebble at her feet and wiped a tear from her eye. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through her contacts and group chats, finally finding the one for her dorm, trying to remember which building she lived in. It had been too long. She had only scrolled for a second when her phone rang. It was an unknown number. She answered, and a voice immediately screamed at her. "Chloe, have you lost your mind? How dare you hit your sister? You beat her so badly. Where are you? Get back here right now and apologize." It was Mrs. Miller. Chloe said nothing. She just hung up and blocked the number. She knew they wouldn't leave her alone, so she had already blocked every member of the Miller family. Another unknown number immediately called. Chloe answered, holding the phone away from her ear. This time it was Leo, his voice as foul as ever. "Chloe, you bitch. You hit my sister. I swear, when I find you, I'm going to skin you alive." This time, Chloe didn't stay silent. She waited for him to finish his tirade, then calmly replied, "Asshole, The line went quiet for a second. Chloe hung up and blocked the number, imagining the furious look on Leo's face. The moment she blocked him, another call came in. Chloe had a feeling she knew who it was. Noah wasn't screaming, but his tone was demanding. Chloe, you went too far this time. Isabel is your sister. How could you hurt her like that? Come home right now and apologize. Beg her to forgive you. Why don't you ask me why I hit her? Never mind. You don't care. You only care that Isabel got hurt. Please tell Mrs. Miller that as of today, I have nothing to do with any of you. I don't owe you a thing. The Millers had provided her with food, clothing, and an education for a few years, but she had given Isabel her bone marrow. She had saved her life. She didn't owe them anything. There was a pause on the other end. Chloe, stop this nonsense. Come home and apologize to everyone. She had said all she needed to say. Chloe didn't want to argue anymore. She ended the call, turned off her phone, popped out the SIM card, and threw it in the nearest trash can. She walked into the first mobile store she saw and got a new number. Back in New York at the Carter residence. After Chloe changed her number, the Millers couldn't reach her, so they started calling me. They told me Chloe had cut ties with them and vowed never to come back. Since everyone knew I was pursuing her, Noah asked if I knew where she was. But how was I supposed to know? After hanging up, I hesitated for a long time before finally giving in and calling my roommate, Jake. Hey Jake, do me a favor. Can you see if Chloe is back on campus? Did you two have a fight or something? It's complicated. I just need to make sure she's safe. All right, man. I'll check for you. A little while later, Jake sent me a screenshot of a group chat from Chloe's dorm. Ethan, she's back at school. Got it. Thanks, man. I hung up and pinched the bridge of my nose, breathing a sigh of relief. But then I remembered the harsh things I'd said to her, and my expression soured. Then again, getting over an addiction takes time. This life, I swear I will get over Chloe Miller. If I don't, I'm no better than a dog. Meanwhile, Chloe was at a hot pot restaurant when her roommate, Olivia, sent her an iMessage. Chloe, Ethan's been asking around for you. Chloe stared at the message for a long time before finally typing back, I know. She scrolled for a while before finding our message thread. The last message was from before the break. I had told her to wait for me so we could travel back to New York together. She never replied, and she didn't wait. Chloe scrolled through our old messages, her head sinking lower and lower. I was so cold to him. How did he keep chasing me for all those years? Did it make him sad? Her eyes stayed glued to the screen, but the steam rising from the hot pot blurred the words. Some things seem insignificant at the moment, but looking back with a decade of perspective, how could they hurt so much? Chloe was filled with regret. She had missed out on a boy who had only had eyes for her. Asterisk, is he worried about me? Does that mean he still cares? Asterisk, so, for the first time ever, Chloe sent me a message first. I'm back at school. Don't worry. I'll wait for you here. The message went unanswered. I saw it, but I pretended I hadn't. I didn't want to reply. The next afternoon, I was by the entrance to the athletic fields. Ethan, a familiar voice called my name. I stopped instinctively and turned. Of course, it was Chloe. I deliberately looked away, affecting a casual tone. What's up? At my question, Chloe looked down at the ground. There was no real reason. She had just come to the basketball courts on the off chance she might see me, never expecting to actually run into me. When she didn't say anything, I frowned and started to walk away. Seeing me leave, Chloe panicked and grabbed my arm. Wait, let go. We shouldn't be this close. Oh, sorry. If you have something to say, say it. I need to get back to my dorm. I took a step back, intentionally putting space between us. Chloe looked distressed. She was a total introvert with serious social anxiety, not great at conversation. My cold attitude made it even harder for her to figure out what to say. After a long hesitation, she finally whispered, Ethan, I want to pursue you. Just then, Jake caught up to us, just in time to hear her. He looked completely stunned, his mouth hanging open wide enough to fit an egg. But my reaction was what really made his jaw drop. I just scoffed. Sorry, not interested. And with that, I turned and walked away, leaving a crestfallen Chloe and a dumbfounded Jake standing there. Back in her dorm room, Chloe collapsed into her chair with a heavy sigh. Her roommate noticed her mood. What's wrong, Chloe? You look down. Chloe was quiet for a long moment before finally making a decision. I want to pursue someone. At this, all three of her roommates turned to look at her. Who? They asked in unison. You know him, Ethan Carter. The second she said his name, all three of them looked away. Olivia went back to her face mask and manicure, a look of disdain on her face. Ethan? Does he even need pursuing? All you have to do is crook your finger. Are you just messing with us? Everyone knows Ethan is crazy about you. Chloe blushed, unsure how to explain. I did some things that really upset him, and now he doesn't want anything to do with me. But I regret it. I want to win him back. At this, Olivia paused her routine, and all three roommates stared at her again. Don't just stare at me. Give me some advice. I'm just curious what you could have possibly done to make Ethan Carter ignore you. Seeing her hesitate, Olivia didn't push it. The girls started brainstorming. You could start with a really sincere apology. Show him you mean it. Find out what he likes and get him a gift to say you're sorry. Or you could try acting all cute and begging for forgiveness. No guy can resist that. Honestly, you should just kiss him. He'd probably forgive you for anything after that. What are you laughing at? I'm serious. It's the easiest and most effective way. You'd have to ask if Chloe could even do that. I think just acting cute would be pushing her limits. Chloe felt like none of their ideas were very helpful and ran her hands through her hair in frustration. Friday afternoon, overcast. Chloe bought 4 cans of cold Coke and carried them in a paper bag to the basketball court. If she remembered correctly, I didn't have classes on Friday afternoons and would usually be here playing basketball. She only remembered because in our past life, I was always messaging her, telling her to come watch me play when she was free. The court was surrounded by girls. 80% of them didn't understand the game. Their attention was never on the ball. There were 3 different games going on across the courts. Chloe didn't even have to guess which one was mine. It was obviously the one with the biggest crowd of girls. She had arrived late, so she stood at the back of the crowd with her bag, not trying to push her way through. She just stood there quietly, listening to the shrieks that erupted from the girls in front every few moments. She could hear them shouting my name. For a split second, she wanted to shout too, but she couldn't make a sound. Chloe lowered her head and stared at her shoes. I'm so boring, always so quiet and awkward. I don't understand why the Ethan from our past life loved me so much. If she had never been in his life, maybe Ethan would have found a girl who adored him, and they would have had a happy marriage. Thinking about it that way, Chloe could almost understand why the Ethan of this life wanted nothing to do with her. If she were in his shoes after being treated so coldly for so many years, she would have given up long ago too. She glanced around at the crowd. There were girls of every type, and many of them were clearly there for me. Seeing this, Chloe lowered her head, her hands tightening on the paper bag until it nearly tore. She wondered, if his special feelings for her were gone, was there any chance for them in this life? Dark clouds rolled in overhead, and a cool wind rustled the falling leaves. Chloe rubbed her arms. She regretted not checking the weather forecast. She should have brought a jacket. A light drizzle began to fall, and she shivered. Some of the girls couldn't take the rain and ran for cover. As the drizzle turned into a steady rain, the crowd thinned out until only a few dedicated girls, including Chloe, remained. Because of the rain, our game ended early. I started walking off the court with a few of my dorm mates, heading for the exit. The few girls still watching parted to let us through. A couple of bold ones stepped forward to offer drinks to the guys they liked, hoping to get their numbers. This was the moment they had been waiting for in the rain. I was still pretty popular. 2 girls had already tried to give me drinks, but I turned them both down. Chloe didn't approach. She just stood where she was, quietly watching me as I was surrounded by other girls. As if sensing her gaze, I suddenly glanced in her direction. But a second later, I looked away and walked right past her. I continued to turn down offers from other girls, chatting with my 3 roommates as we walked away, never giving her another look. Seeing this, Chloe lowered her head again and silently followed behind us. She wasn't the type to make the first move. Pursuing a guy was completely out of her comfort zone. But in this life, she wanted to try being brave. So she gathered her courage, caught up to me, and tapped my shoulder. She held out the bag, the cans inside clinking together. But I just glanced at her, then reached out and took a drink from another girl, leaving Chloe standing there, clutching her bag, as I walked away. In the end, those 4 cans of Coke ended up back in the dorm, consumed by Chloe and her roommates. After hearing the story, Olivia popped open a can and laughed at her. Look at you, can't even give a guy a Coke. Well, if Ethan doesn't want them, more for us. Another roommate opened her can and tried to comfort her. It's okay, Chloe. We'll always support you. But Olivia was exasperated. What good is our support going to do? What else can we do? Moral support is all we've got. I'm telling you, you should have just shoved the bag into his hands. Who cares if he wanted it? Why did you hesitate? The other roommate shook her head. Chloe just can't do that, otherwise she wouldn't have hesitated. You know how she is. Chloe said nothing, just opened her own can and started chugging it. She started posting on various online forums. How do you pursue a guy? The top-rated answers all said basically the same thing. As long as you're attractive and shameless enough, you can get any man you want. Chloe touched her face. She knew she was attractive enough, but she definitely wasn't shameless. so she opened an ebook app and searched for books on how to be more assertive. After a whole night of reading, her mind was still blank. She closed her eyes and sighed. In the end, she decided Olivia was right. If she kept being so timid, there would be no chance for them at all. The next day was sunny. Chloe went back to the basketball court, holding a new bag of drinks. This time, they were green cans of Sprite. Her thinking was that if she failed again, at least she could bring them back to the dorm. They'd had Coke last time, so a change of pace would be nice. She only knew I'd be playing because Jake had tipped her off. I was feeling incredibly restless and hoped to burn it off on the court. For some reason, for the past few days, every time I closed my eyes, all I could see was her face, drenched in the rain. "Ethan, look over there. It's you-know-who. She's back for you," Jake yelled, jogging up beside me. My friends didn't dare say Chloe Miller around me anymore. Anytime her name came up, my mood would turn instantly foul. But even without the name, I knew who he meant. I tried to resist, but I couldn't stop myself from turning to look. The second I did, Jake snatched the ball from me and made a layup. "Ha! Gotcha!" My face darkened with annoyance. I wasn't sure if I was more annoyed at Jake for tricking me or at myself for still caring about Chloe. I charged at him and completely dominated him for the rest of the game. Finally, Jake stood up, panting. "All right, I'm done. Let's take a break. I'm dying of thirst. Anyone bring water? We all came here together, dude." "You know we didn't. All we brought was the ball." Jake waved a dismissive hand. "No problem. There are plenty of girls over there. We'll just walk by, and someone's bound to offer Ethan a drink, which we can share." "Ethan, if you don't want it, I'll take it. I'm parched." With that, Jake threw an arm over my shoulder, clinging to me like an octopus. "Get off me. What are you doing?" "Ethan, man, one break and you've become so cold. Just watch. Chloe's really coming over." Seeing us walk over, Chloe quickly stood up, but someone else was faster. "Want some water?" Jessica asked, holding a bottle out to me, her face blushing. She probably thought that since I'd accepted her drink yesterday, I would again today. The way Jessica was looking at me was strange. I frowned and said nothing. After a moment, her arm, still holding the bottle, began to look stiff, and the smile on her face started to falter. My eyes were on the ground, but in my peripheral vision, I was watching Chloe hesitate nearby. I wasn't listening to a word the girl in front of me was saying. A moment later, Chloe stepped forward too. "Ethan, these are for you and your roommates." She held the bag out to me by its handle. She had finally spoken. My gaze shifted to her, and I looked her up and down, but I didn't move to take it. Jake watched this drama unfold, looking completely stressed out. He poked me in the back. "Dude, say something. If you're not gonna take it, I will. I'm dying over here." So I reached out and took the water bottle from Jessica. At this, Jessica's eyes lit up, but the light in Chloe's went out. She bit her lip, about to pull the bag back. But then she must have remembered Olivia's advice. She took a step forward, shoved the bag into my arms, and then turned and walked away without a word. I stood there, stunned, watching Chloe's back until she disappeared from view. Back in her dorm, Chloe sat sulking. Her roommates started giving her more advice. "Chloe, if it's not working out, just give up. Come play video games with me. Guys aren't as fun as games anyway. Chloe, maybe you should try a different angle? I heard Ethan's the head of the athletics committee, and he's in the running club. Maybe you could try one of those." The last suggestion made Chloe pause. She knew nothing about my activities at school. After a moment, she found the running club president's contact info on a campus page, sent a request, and was instantly accepted. Then she started asking about their meeting times. Sunday afternoon, at the northwest corner of campus. This was the meeting spot the club president had given her. There were only 5 or 6 people at the gazebo. Chloe waited for a long time before I finally showed up. "All right, everyone's here. Let's get started," the president announced as soon as he saw me. I was surprised to see Chloe there, but I kept my expression neutral, not even glancing her way as I started jogging at the back of the pack. Seeing this, Chloe quickly got up and fell in step right behind me. I slowed my pace slightly, watching her from the corner of my eye. After a few minutes, I couldn't take it anymore. "Why are you following me?" Chloe blinked, catching her breath. "I'm running. I joined the club." She rarely exercised, and even though we were going at a slow pace, she was already panting. "But you hate running," I said, slowing down even more without realizing it. I remembered how much she hated sports, especially the mandatory half-mile run for gym class. She would always be panting, on the verge of tears, and would collapse the second she crossed the finish line. Chloe remembered those days too. The fitness test was her most dreaded day of the year. Back then, while she ran on the track, I would always run alongside her on the outside, cheering her on. Not that she ever noticed. As she gasped for breath, Chloe answered quietly, "I don't like running." But I like you. Hearing that, my heart hammered in my chest. But I chose to ignore it. The minutes ticked by. Chloe struggled to keep up, but her stamina was failing. It was like her body was running ahead while her soul trailed behind. She was getting dizzy, the ground blurring beneath her feet. I could hear her ragged, heavy breathing right behind me. Just as Chloe was about to collapse, a light rain began to fall. I stopped immediately. There's a gazebo up ahead. Let's wait it out there. Chloe nodded and tried to stop, but her legs gave out from under her, and she crumpled to the ground. She hated looking so weak, but her legs just wouldn't hold her. Ever since she donated her bone marrow to Isabel at 11, it seemed to have left lasting effects. She couldn't do strenuous exercise without getting dizzy. As a result, she'd never been very active, and her immune system was weak. She always caught a cold in the winter. I heard the thud behind me and paused for a second before forcing myself to keep walking, not looking back. Chloe stayed on the ground, catching her breath for a long moment before she managed to get up and hurry to the gazebo just as the rain started coming down harder. She collapsed onto the bench, leaning against a pillar and closing her eyes to recover. Outside, rain hammered the ground, sending up splashes of water. We were the only two people in the gazebo. I stood at the opposite end, leaning against another pillar with my hands in my pockets. I shook the rain from my hair and looked over at her. Her eyes were closed, her face was flushed. She probably hadn't run that far in years. Taking the opportunity, I let my gaze linger on her face. After a long moment, her eyelashes fluttered, and I quickly looked away. Chloe opened her eyes, finally feeling human again. She sat up straight, moving away from the pillar, and looked at me across the gazebo. He's standing so far away. Is he trying to keep his distance? Fine, if he won't come to me, I'll go to him. With that thought, Chloe stood up. Her legs were still aching, but she slowly walked over to my side to watch the rain with me. Neither of us spoke. We just stood there for a long time watching the rain. In all the years we'd known each other, there had always been resentment between us. We had never just stood together peacefully like this. When the rain finally lightened, I turned to her. Why do you keep following me around? Chloe looked up, meeting my eyes, a little flustered. I told you, I'm pursuing you. I stared at her blushing face and let out a short, harsh laugh. Pursuing me? You like me? I leaned in, looking her over. Chloe took a sharp breath, not daring to meet my eyes, but she nodded. Yes, I like you. At her words, something in my expression shifted. I grabbed her chin, forcing her to look at me as I backed her against the pillar. She felt her back slam against the hard wood, the impact making her whole body shudder and bringing tears to her eyes. I leaned down, staring into her eyes, my face just inches from hers. You really like me? Then prove it. Kiss me. Chloe stood frozen against the pillar, staring at me. My face was so close. All she had to do was lean forward. But I've never kissed anyone before. A sense of shame washed over her. She nervously twisted the hem of her shirt, unable to move. Seeing her hesitation, I scoffed and let go of her chin. This is what you call liking me? You won't even kiss me. But as I started to pull away, a soft, tentative pressure touched the corner of my mouth. My heart hammered against my ribs, and I could feel hers doing the same. It was the first time in 2 lifetimes she had ever initiated a kiss. Even though we'd been married for a decade in our past life, we had never been intimate except for that one time. I tried to steady my racing heart and leaned in closer, tapping my own lips. Chloe, I didn't mean the corner. That doesn't count. Kiss me here. Hearing my words, Chloe obediently closed her eyes, her body trembling slightly as she wrapped her arms around my neck and slowly leaned in. For a second, I could have sworn I heard her heartbeat. But just as she was about to kiss me, I pressed my finger to her lips, stopping her. She opened her eyes, looking at me in confusion. I gently wiped her lips with my thumb and took a step back. Chloe, just because you say you like me, I'm supposed to accept it? Where were you all this time? Don't you know that affection that comes too late is worthless? As the words left my mouth, the rain stopped, and the sun broke through the clouds. I turned away, my face a cold mask. I'm not going to be with you. Stop following me. Chloe just stood there, watching me walk away. She stood frozen, blinking rapidly, fighting to keep the tears from falling. For the next few days, Chloe was completely out of it. She moved like a robot, mechanically reaching out to pour herself a glass of water. Just as she was about to drink it, Olivia snatched the glass from her hand and slammed it down on the table. The sharp noise made Chloe's unfocused eyes snap into focus, and she looked at her roommate in confusion. Girl, this is boiling water from the kettle. Are you trying to burn your throat out? Hearing that, Chloe finally registered what she was doing and looked down, embarrassed. Olivia rolled her eyes dramatically. So a guy rejected you. Is it really that big of a deal? You look like a zombie. Get a grip. She's right, another roommate chimed in. It's just one guy. Come play video games with me. It's okay, Chloe, the third one said. You're beautiful. Plenty of guys like you. You don't have to get hung up on just one. Their concern made Chloe feel a little better. But her biggest flaw was her stubbornness. If she weren't so single-minded, she wouldn't have spent her past life trapped by her family, used by them until the very end. She couldn't convince herself to give up on me. She was determined to see this through. After lights out, Chloe drew the curtain around her bed, turned on her phone, and started downloading a ton of ebooks. Titles like The Art of the Chase, How to Capture His Heart, and Understanding the Male Mind. If she couldn't figure it out on her own, she would study. Besides reading, Chloe also created a workout plan for herself. Her health was terrible, and she needed to get stronger if she was going to have the energy to pursue me. From now on, she would go for a 30-minute run every morning to get in shape. 6 a.m. The sky was just beginning to lighten. Chloe's alarm went off. She tossed and turned for a minute before forcing herself to sit up. She fought off her drowsiness, got dressed, and was out the door by a little after 6. She started at a very slow jog, using the breathing technique I had taught her years ago, her thoughts drifting to me as she moved at a steady pace. Years ago, to keep up with her demanding studies, Chloe used to go for a run for half an hour every night after her late study sessions. By then, the track lights were always off, and it was a little scary running alone in the dark. But on the second night, I had shown up at the track to run with her, joking around and telling her how to pace her breathing. Lost in thought, she suddenly snapped back to the present and saw me jogging toward her from the opposite direction. There was still some distance between us, and she was trying to figure out a non-awkward way to say hello. But with my long legs, I closed the distance in just a few strides. I was right in front of her before she'd even decided what to say. Then, Chloe watched as I ran right past her without a single glance. She looked away, a dejected expression on her face, and continued her slow jog. Ethan probably doesn't want to talk to me today. I'll just keep running for now and wait for a better time. We were running in opposite directions, so Chloe didn't see me glance back over my shoulder after a minute. She was moving away from me at a snail's pace, with no sign of turning around to follow me. A surge of irritation went through me. If I don't talk, can't she? If I don't say hi, can't she? If I ignore her, can't she turn around and follow me? This is what she calls liking me? Liar. She was never like this with Ryan. My expression darkened. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got, and I picked up my pace. 2 minutes later, I lapped her again. Her eyes widened slightly, surprised at how fast I was going. Seeing the surprise in her eyes only made me more irritated. Is she that unhappy to see me? She sees me and says nothing? Still nothing? Just going to ignore me again? Chloe had no idea what was going through my head. All she saw was my dark expression and figured I was in a bad mood and she should stay out of my way. She tried to make herself smaller, moving over to an inner lane to give me a wider berth. Seeing her switch lanes, I gritted my teeth in frustration. All right, Chloe Miller. Pretend I don't exist, will you? The moment we were about to pass each other, I suddenly sidestepped directly into her lane. Chloe didn't have time to react. She ran right into me. My momentum was much greater than hers, and the impact nearly sent her flying backward, but I grabbed her arm to steady her. Once she was steady, she clutched her chest. The impact had clearly hurt, and her eyes were watering. She stood there panting, her nose and the corners of her eyes flushed red. I let go of her arm and took a step back, putting some distance between us. I watched her gasp for breath for a moment before I spoke. Why did you run into me? Her eyes went wide with disbelief. She summoned her courage to challenge me. Weren't you the one who ran into me? You're the one who didn't get out of the way. She was speechless. If you'd been running in the same direction, this wouldn't have happened. Chloe stared at me, shocked by my audacity. She wasn't quick with comebacks, so she just glared at me, her eyes wide. Seeing her puffing her cheeks out in anger, I raised an eyebrow and made an unreasonable demand. To make sure you don't run into me again, from now on you're going to run behind me. Same direction. Chloe said nothing, clearly thinking I was insane. She bit her lip, silently turned around, and fell in step behind me. I deliberately slowed my pace, and hearing her soft footsteps behind me, my mood instantly lifted. After another 3 laps, I realized I couldn't hear her behind me anymore. I glanced back and saw she had stopped, bent over with her hands on her knees. I immediately jogged back to her. What's wrong? You okay? Her face was flushed, her eyes glassy with unshed tears. I can't run anymore. All right, let's stop here for today. As she spoke, my eyes were drawn to her lips, and I had to swallow. Why is it that every time I see her, all I want to do is kiss her? I managed to fight down the urge and covered it with a sneer. That's all you've got? You're really out of shape. Hearing that, Chloe's hands balled into fists. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. I'm going to get breakfast. Are you coming? I stared at her lips as she spoke, considered for a second, then nodded. Chloe put on her backpack and started walking. She was still trying to catch her breath after the run. I walked a little behind and to the side of her, my hands in my pockets, my eyes fixed on her swinging ponytail. For a moment, the girl in front of me blurred with the memory of a girl in a school uniform. I used to follow her just like this, my eyes tracing the movement of her ponytail. That was so many years ago. My body might be young now, but my soul has lived this life before. But Chloe, how has she not changed at all? She's still just as young, just as beautiful, still able to steal my breath with a single look. Even now, guys on the path turn their heads to get a second look at her. Why is she still so young in this new life? Why am I the only one who feels old? The only one who got hurt? The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. My face fell, and I quickened my pace, striding past her. I wasn't going to spend this life staring at her back again. I needed to look forward. Chloe watched me suddenly speed up and knew I was angry again. Asterisk, he's angry again? How did I manage to annoy him just by walking? Does he not like people walking behind him? Asterisk, she made a mental note to always let me walk in front from now on. The path from the track to her first class was a gravel lane lined with maple trees. It was autumn, and the leaves were falling. Chloe followed a few steps behind me, idly counting the pebbles under her feet. I walked for a bit, listening to her footsteps to gauge the distance between us. I was always the one staring at her back before. Now it was her turn. I thought this stubbornly, yet I subtly slowed my pace, waiting for her to catch up. But after a while, I couldn't resist glancing back, only to see her with her head down, kicking at the gravel. Asterisk, she's not even looking at me. She's not watching me at all. I knew it. Her saying she liked me was a lie. When you really like someone, you can't take your eyes off them. Asterisk, how would I know? Because that's how I was. Whenever Chloe was around, I couldn't look at anyone or anything else. I stopped dead in my tracks, my back still to her. Chloe wasn't looking where she was going and had no idea I'd stopped. She kept walking right into my back. She was well developed, and this was the second time she'd run into me in an hour. She stumbled back with a small cry of pain. I spun around and just stared at her. Chloe took a couple of deep breaths to recover, then shot me an annoyed look. Why'd you stop all of a sudden? The way her eyes glistened instantly extinguished all my anger and resentment. I found myself moving toward her, unable to stop. Seeing me approach, Chloe tightened her grip on her backpack strap and instinctively took a step back. I suddenly reached out, wrapped an arm around her slim waist, and pulled her against me. Startled, Chloe put her hands on my chest and stammered, "Ethan, what are you?" Just then, a maple leaf drifted down and landed in her hair. With one arm still around her waist, I reached up with my other hand to pluck it out. Chloe blinked, looking completely bewildered. She must have thought I was being moody again, wondering what she'd done wrong this time. Staring at my lips, so close to hers, she suddenly remembered Olivia's words. If I kiss him, maybe he won't be angry anymore? Without warning, Chloe stood on her toes and pressed her lips to mine, her hands clutching my shirt, her body trembling. Asterisk, he smells like soap. It's nice. Asterisk, Chloe thought as she kissed me earnestly. But she had no experience and could only press her lips against mine awkwardly. Her sudden move caught me completely off guard. I froze as if I'd been struck by lightning. After a couple of seconds, I snapped out of it, my hand coming up to cup the back of her head as I pushed her back against the trunk of a large maple tree, shielding us from view. Chloe tasted sweet like lychee. I crashed past her defenses, seeking out her tongue and tangling it with mine. It was a full 20 minutes before I finally pulled away, burying my face in the crook of her neck and gasping for air. Chloe leaned against the tree, her mind foggy, unable to catch her breath. As the haze in her eyes cleared, her face flushed a deep red. She touched her lips. They were a little sore. Are they swollen? He had kissed her so hard. It was her first kiss. Was it his too? He kissed her for so long. Chloe took a deep breath to calm herself, then glanced at the time. She had definitely missed breakfast. She gave me a gentle push. I have to go. I'll be late for class. I lifted my head and let her go, my expression instantly returning to neutral as I reached out to straighten her collar. She frantically smoothed down her clothes, said a quick goodbye, and hurried off. As I watched her go, a small smile played on my lips, and I unconsciously touched my own mouth. Later that morning, in class, Chloe was completely zoned out. Her roommate poked her with a pen. "Chloe, the professor just called on you." She snapped out of it and quickly stood up to answer. Luckily, she'd been half listening and managed to get it right. She breathed a sigh of relief as she sat back down. Her roommate whispered, "What's with you today? You're totally out of it." Chloe felt her cheeks heat up. She couldn't stop thinking about the kiss that morning. Her mind was a complete jumble. Just thinking about it made her blush. Her roommate noticed and narrowed her eyes. "What were you doing so early this morning? Your face is bright red." "Keep your voice down," Chloe whispered, looking around furtively. "I just went for a run. Nothing happened." "Who did you run into?" "Ethan." "I knew it. So what happened?" "And nothing." "Nothing? Then why are you blushing like that? He kissed you, didn't he?" "See, I told you." Her roommate looked triumphant, smirking at Chloe's wide-eyed expression. Chloe was distracted for the rest of the day, checking her phone every few minutes. Asterisk, he kissed me. Does that mean he still likes me? Has he forgiven me? Are we back together now? But it's been the whole day, and he hasn't sent a single message. Doesn't he have anything to say to me? Asterisk, the more she thought, the more confused she got. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore and sent me a message. "Can we talk? I'm waiting by the ginkgo grove." I didn't reply. 9 p.m. It was pitch black. Chloe waited on a bench at the entrance to the ginkgo grove. She decided she would wait until 10, whether I showed up or not. The grove had very few lights, making it a popular spot for couples. She waited for half an hour, watching couples stroll in and out hand in hand, before she finally saw me approaching. Chloe sat on the bench, her arms crossed, watching me silently. A few passing couples glanced our way. I stopped in front of her and, after a moment, motioned with my head for her to follow me deeper into the grove. She understood and hesitated for a second before standing up. "In there? It's full of couples." "So, okay, fine." She obediently fell into step behind me, her eyes locked straight ahead. She didn't dare glance around, afraid of what she might see or hear in the darkness. After a short walk, I sat on a bench under a large ginkgo tree. Chloe sat down beside me, biting her lip and twisting her hands together nervously. "You kissed me this morning," she whispered. "Does that mean you still like me?" The air was silent for a few seconds before I let out a harsh laugh. I hooked a finger under her chin, my thumb rubbing against her skin. "Kissing you means I like you? You're beautiful. Who wouldn't want to kiss you? What guy would say no?" As I spoke, I leaned in and kissed her cheek. Her eyes flew open, and she took a sharp breath, clearly fighting the urge to slap me. "How could you be like this? What? If you don't like it, you can leave. Stay away from me." Seeing her fall silent, I leaned back against the tree. After 10 seconds of silence, she spoke. "I'm willing." I was taken aback for a second, then I sat up straight. "I'm just playing around with you. You're willing to do that?" "I'm willing," she repeated, looking me straight in the eye, her expression serious. Seeing she wasn't lying, I was silent for a moment before a slow smile spread across my face. "All right, if you want to play, I guess we can play." With that, I pulled her onto my lap, cupped her head, and leaned in to kiss her. Startled, Chloe instinctively wrapped her arms around my neck as she passively accepted the kiss. Then my hand slipped under her shirt. The coldness of my fingers made her shudder, especially as they began to travel upward. Her eyes flew open, and she frantically grabbed my hand. "No, we're outside." I froze, then pulled my hand back, let go of her, and stood up. "Then forget it." "Forget what?" Chloe scrambled to her feet and grabbed my sleeve. "What are we now?" I looked down at her flushed face and tapped her on the forehead. "We're just playing around. Don't get too serious. Or, if you prefer, you can be my secret girlfriend." Her eyes widened in disbelief. Asterisk, his secret girlfriend? Am I someone to be ashamed of? Asterisk, her shocked expression was actually kind of cute. I couldn't resist leaning in and kissing her cheek again, whispering in her ear, "What's wrong? You don't want to? I thought you said you liked me." As I spoke, I saw her grit her teeth and nod. "Fine, I'll do it. I'm willing." Asterisk, secret girlfriend it is, then. There has to be a way to make it official someday. Asterisk, I couldn't believe she'd actually agreed. I was just messing with her. But then an idea came to me and I decided to lay down some rules. First, you can't tell anyone about us. In public, you can let people think you're still chasing me. Second, you need to remember this is just for fun. I can see whoever I want, but you can't. Until this is over, you can only be with me. Third, you have to be available whenever I call and fulfill the duties of a girlfriend, but I don't have to act like your boyfriend. Chloe, I'm giving you one chance to back out. The 3 rules were completely one-sided. Chloe mentally dubbed them Ethan's rules. She thought it over. She could accept the first 2. It was her penance. But the 3rd rule, what duties exactly? I thought for a moment, then said vaguely, "Whenever I want to be with you, physically, you can't say no." I could see the hesitation on her face. Seeing her struggle, I sighed. "You can't handle that? Then just stay away from me." I turned to walk away. But a second later, she grabbed my arm. I accept. With my back to her, a wide grin spread across my face. But when I turned back around, my expression was neutral again. I added, your duties also include taking care of my daily needs and doing what I say. Chloe figured she might as well go all in and gritted her teeth in agreement. Seeing her biting her lip in frustration, I chuckled. Come on, walk me back to my dorm. Huh? Shouldn't you be walking me back? Girls don't walk guys home. Chloe, remember your place? I said, pinching her cheek. We arrived at the men's dorm. There was hardly anyone around. When we got there, Chloe tried to rush me inside. We're here. I'm going now. I wasn't gonna let her off that easy. I racked my brain for something to say. Aren't you forgetting something? Chloe just blinked at me. I tapped my cheek. She understood. She glanced around, and seeing no one was watching, she quickly stood on her toes and kissed my cheek. Without another word, she turned and ran off. I stood there until she was completely out of sight before heading inside, feeling surprisingly good. In her dorm room, Chloe lay in bed, searching for tutorials on how to knit a scarf. She wanted to make something for me herself. Just before she fell asleep, she got a message from me. It was short and to the point. 7:40 tomorrow morning. Bring me breakfast. Downstairs at my dorm. As per Ethan's rules, she immediately replied, okay. The next day, Chloe didn't have an 8 a.m. class, but she got up early anyway to buy my breakfast, even fitting in a half-hour run beforehand. At 7:30, she was standing outside the men's dorm with a bag of hot food, waiting for me. Guys rushing to their 8 a.m. classes would hurry out the door, then slow down, captivated for a few seconds by the sight of the beautiful, aloof girl waiting there. As time passed and more guys stared at her, she grew more uncomfortable, her expression turning colder. She frowned, looking toward the entrance. Why isn't Ethan coming out yet? Just then, Jake and I walked out. Chloe's eyes lit up and her face flushed. She gave me a small wave but didn't call out my name. I walked over and took the bag from her. Then, feeling all the eyes on us, I reached out and patted her on the head. Good girl. I'm heading to class. Chloe leaned into the touch slightly, only nodding after I pulled my hand away. The scene left all the guys watching completely stunned. Ethan, what was that? Am I still dreaming? Jake said, rubbing his eyes in mock disbelief. He hurried to catch up, grabbing my arm. Dude, when did you finally get Chloe Miller? And you didn't tell us? Not cool, man. I pushed him off, a smug look on my face. I'm not with her. She's chasing me. I haven't said yes yet. After delivering the breakfast, Chloe headed back to her dorm. She didn't have any classes until the afternoon. As she reached her dorm room on the 5th floor, the door to the next room opened, and Jessica stepped out. She stopped when she saw Chloe, her eyes sweeping over her in a critical way. Chloe looked her over for a second, thinking she looked familiar. Then she remembered, it was the girl who had offered me water. Chloe had no interest in talking to her, and sensing the hostility in the other girl's gaze, she ignored her and went into her room. After Chloe left, Jessica looked down at her own outfit. Later, she asked her roommates, who do you think is dressed better, me or Chloe? You, obviously. Chloe has no fashion sense at all. It's such a waste of a pretty face. After class, as I was leaving the lecture hall, a girl suddenly ran up and blocked my path. Can I help you? It was Jessica. She nervously bit her lip, her face flushed, as she shoved a folded note into my hand and then ran off. Jake waggled his eyebrows. What's that? I frowned and unfolded the note. At the top, it read, my first confession to Ethan, followed by lines and lines of tiny handwriting. I had no interest in reading it and tossed it into the nearest trash can. Jake looked disappointed. Dude, she probably spent a long time writing that. You could have at least glanced at it. If you want to read it, you can dig it out of the trash. It was for you, not me. What if Chloe had given it to you? At that, I stopped walking for a second, caught off guard, but quickly recovered. Chloe would never do something so silly, I thought, but then I remembered a diary of hers I'd once stumbled upon, filled with her delicate feelings for someone else. Maybe she just wouldn't do it for me. For the next 3 days, I kept running into Jessica everywhere. The campus store outside my lecture hall in front of my dorm. Each time, she would shove another letter into my hand and run off. Jake snatched the latest one, titled My Second Confession to Ethan, and started reading it. Hey, her writing's not bad. You want to see? Just throw it out, I said coldly, pulling out my phone. It had been 3 days. I hadn't contacted Chloe, and she hadn't sent me a single message. I stared at my phone and scoffed, a familiar irritation bubbling up inside me. Jake glanced at me, then tossed the letter in the trash. What's wrong now? You're so moody today. It's nothing. Let's go. I didn't know what was wrong with me. Just thinking about Chloe set me on edge. and seeing Jessica's passionate pursuit only made it clearer that Chloe didn't really like me that much. I had sworn I wouldn't make the same mistake twice, that I would stay away from her. But then she had to come and say she liked me. Maybe I was just too hurt from our last life. I couldn't believe her, but at the same time I desperately wanted to. I needed her to prove it, but Chloe made no effort at all. She just dangled the hook, gave me a sliver of hope, and then vanished. She was so hot and cold, and I refused to be the one to reach out first. I was terrified of ending up like I did in our last life, bearing my soul to her, offering her my whole heart, only to have it crushed. If she didn't really care about me, I would just be a pathetic joke all over again. I couldn't bring myself to move forward, but I couldn't bear to retreat either. I was stuck in the middle, tormented. I couldn't hate her and I couldn't love her. And I kept wondering, does Chloe even know the difference between guilt and love? I was in turmoil all day, completely drained. But Chloe knew nothing of my inner conflict. She was exhausted herself, her whole body aching. For the past few days, whenever she didn't have class, she'd been handing out flyers off campus, standing on her feet for hours. She'd come back to the dorm so tired she'd pass out immediately. She was broke. The last time she tried to buy lunch, her card was declined. Her roommate had to pay for her. Most college students wouldn't bother with a tiring, low-paying job like handing out flyers, and she didn't want to either. But all the on-campus work-study jobs were already taken. She joined a group for tutoring jobs, but it was run by an agency that charged a $200 finder's fee. She didn't have anything close to that kind of money, so she had no choice but to hand out flyers. Chloe had just gotten back to her floor, ready to collapse in her room, when a message from me came through. Ginkgo Grove. Same spot. I'm waiting. Even though she hadn't seen me in days, she went. The grove was as dark as ever. She walked by the light of the moon, searching for the bench where we'd met before. I was already there, sitting hunched over in the shadows, my head down. Seeing me like that, Chloe felt a strange pang in her heart. She approached quietly and called my name softly. Ethan. I suddenly grabbed her and pulled her down. She stumbled into my lap, instinctively throwing her arms around my neck to steady herself. I said nothing, just held her tight as my mouth crashed down on hers. Gently, don't bite, she mumbled, pushing lightly against my chest. I was being too rough, she couldn't breathe. Ethan seems off. Is he in a bad mood again? She felt like she was suffocating. Ethan, let me breathe. She pushed me away just enough to rest her head against my chest. I kept my head down, saying nothing, but my hand on her waist tightened. I wanted to ask her why she hadn't messaged me, why she hadn't tried to see me, but I refused to be like some pathetic dog, wagging its tail and waiting for a pat on the head. I clenched my fists and just said her name. Chloe, I'm here. What is it? She looked up at me, her nose twitching slightly. I was wearing cologne tonight, the same one I'd worn in our past life. A fresh, clean watermelon scent. Nothing, just wanted to say your name. Of course, Chloe couldn't read my mind. So, what did you want? She asked. Her question annoyed me. Did there have to be a reason? I tilted her chin up, my expression cold. I wanted to see you because I needed something. I wanted to kiss you. Chloe, have you forgotten our arrangement? You didn't think I actually missed you, did you? At my words, Chloe's arms dropped from around my neck, and she leaned back. There was a tightness in her chest, and she had the sudden urge to hit me. Are you satisfied now? Can I go? Chloe looked exhausted. Her eyelids were drooping. She really just wanted to go back to her dorm and sleep. What's the rush? Are you that desperate to get away from me? No, I'm just really tired. She was sleepy and wanted to lie down. Her health wasn't great to begin with, and the exhaustion from the past few days was pushing her to her limit. She was already running on fumes just by coming to meet me. Seeing how drained she looked, I lost the desire to tease her anymore. If you're tired, then go. Okay, I'm going. Chloe yawned, and as she stood up, her legs felt weak, and she stumbled on her first step. I reached out to steady her, but then pulled my hand back. Back in the girls' dorm, Olivia checked the time. It's 10:30. Why isn't Chloe back yet? Do you guys know where she went? She asked, sending Chloe a message. No idea. She seems really busy lately. I think she's working a part-time job, another roommate said. Her meal card was declined the other day. She did cut ties with her family. Just as they were talking, Chloe walked in, dropped her bag, and immediately climbed into bed. One of her roommates hesitated for a second, then said, Chloe, if you're having trouble, you know you can talk to us. I have some extra cash I can lend you. Olivia waved a dismissive hand. She doesn't need your money. I've got plenty. If you need anything, Chloe, just ask. Chloe was touched, her eyes widening. Thanks, guys. If it gets to the point where I can't afford to eat, I'll let you know. Just don't ever look at a guy with those big, teary eyes, Olivia joked. Even I can't handle it. They laughed for a bit, then turned out the lights. After Chloe made $500 handing out flyers, she found a new part-time job at the boba shop just off campus, making $20 an hour. Between studying and working to support herself, she never had time to contact me, and I hadn't contacted her either. Ever since that night in the Grove, it felt like there was a wall between us. I was waiting for her to come to me, and she was waiting for me to go to her. Chloe was still bothered by what I'd said that night. Felt like I was just using her. If she went to him now, it would be like she was willingly offering herself up, knowing what he wanted. Wouldn't that make her seem cheap? We were at a stalemate. One day, in the library, Chloe was sitting at a small table by the window. 10 yards away, I stood partially hidden behind a bookshelf, watching her. After watching her for a long time, I finally took out my phone and opened our message thread. The last message was from 5 days ago. I stared at the screen for a long moment before finally typing, "What are you doing?" Chloe's phone buzzed. She picked it up, and her heart skipped a beat. It seems like every time Ethan contacts me, it's because, does he want something again? She glanced at the pile of homework beside her. She still had so much to do. Between her job and her classes, she barely had any free time. If I asked her to meet, how could she say no? After thinking it over, Chloe finally replied, "Studying in the library." I told her to send me her location. I then walked around to the other side of the stacks and came in from a different entrance, pretending I'd just come down from another floor, and sat down across from her. "Chloe, what is it?" she asked, looking up and blinking. I pushed her textbook aside and leaned in close. "I missed you," but as the words left my mouth, they changed. "I want to kiss you." It was as if saying that gave me a plausible, face-saving reason to be near her. Chloe's eyelashes fluttered as she whispered her refusal. "I still have so much homework to do." I knew it. This is the only reason he ever wants to see me. But I really don't have time for this today. I kept my eyes on her, coaxing. "Just one kiss. It won't take long." Understanding what I was implying, Chloe's ears turned red. She bit her lip. "Here. Where else?" I said, blowing a soft puff of air at the tip of her nose. We were so close that she could smell the watermelon scent of my cologne, and her heart began to race. She instinctively tried to lean back, but the next second, I cupped her chin, holding her in place as I leaned down and kissed her. Chloe's eyes flew open, realizing we were in a public place, with who knows how many people watching. Her face instantly turned crimson. Just as she raised her hands to push me away, I pulled back. The kiss was brief. Chloe touched her burning cheeks, fanning her face with her hand while shooting me a furtive glare. I saw it and smirked. "What? Shy again?" I reached out and pinched both of her cheeks. "Stop, that hurts." Her skin was soft, and my hands were rough, so I let go after a couple of pinches, but I still left red marks on her cheeks. After that, she went back to her homework, completely unaware that someone had just taken a picture of us kissing. When she got back to her dorm, her roommate was organizing her closet. She looked up and gasped. "Chloe, you're finally back. What's wrong?" Chloe asked, confused by her roommate's excitement. "Chloe, were you out causing trouble tonight?" "What? I was studying all night. Still trying to hide it?" "Chloe, a picture of you and Ethan kissing in the library was posted on the campus confessions page. People are talking trash about you. I mean, you two are brave, making out in the library like that." Her roommate gave her a thumbs up. Hearing this, Chloe's eyes widened. The thought of people seeing us kiss sent a wave of shame through her, and her face flushed. Her roommate dropped the clothes she was folding, pulled Chloe over to a chair, and showed her the post on her phone. Chloe took it, and a high-definition, close-up photo filled the screen. My long fingers were cupping her jaw as I leaned over the table to kiss her, my eyes full of emotion. She was staring back, her eyes wide with surprise, her head tilted back as she passively accepted the kiss, her hands on her textbook clenched into fists. The picture is so clear. What kind of phone took this? Chloe thought. It was the first time she had ever seen what it looked like when I kissed her. The look in my eyes made her heart skip a beat. She had assumed I only kissed her for physical reasons, but this picture suggested otherwise. So what was he thinking when he kissed me? Chloe handed the phone back to her roommate, still feeling embarrassed. I'm just going to go wash up." She fled to the bathroom, quickly finished her routine, and then climbed into her bed, pulling the curtain shut to hide from the world. She opened her phone and went to the confessions page to find the post. She frowned as she scrolled, finally finding the picture. But her thumb slipped, and she scrolled down a little further, and her eyes froze on the screen. The very next post was a confession, and it was addressed to me. The title was "Confessing to Ethan, Day 10, and it was signed by Jessica, the girl from next door. Jessica, Chloe frowned, rolled over in her bed, and scrolled back up to the post about her, tapping to open the comments. The comment section was a war zone. The library is for studying. Can couples please not be all over each other in here? LMAO, someone's single and bitter. They were in a secluded corner. It's not like they were bothering anyone. The two people in the pic are pretty attractive. Anyone know who they are? So what if they're attractive? Does that mean they have no class? You people are so shallow. What's wrong with being shallow? Does it bother you? Maybe you're just ugly. After that, the thread completely derailed, with the two sides just throwing insults at each other. Chloe took a screenshot of the comments and sent it to me. After a moment's thought, she carefully typed out a message. Maybe we should be more careful about the time and place next time? We're getting flamed for this. I was in the cafeteria with Jake when the photo of our library kiss hit the confessions page. He shoved his phone in my face, a sleazy grin spreading across his lips. Ethan, my man, moving fast, I see. It was a surprisingly good photo, perfectly capturing the aggression in my gaze and the startled panic in hers. Deep down, I felt a secret thrill, like I was staking a claim, but out loud all I did was scoff. How boring. I didn't tell anyone, but I secretly saved the photo. Over the next few days, things took a nasty turn. The comments shifted from teasing and envy to vicious rumors, accusing Chloe of cheating and having a messy private life, the language growing more vile by the day. I frowned, my gut telling me someone was orchestrating this. I had Jake look into it, and the result was exactly what I expected. The burner accounts that started the rumors and fanned the flames were all connected to Jessica, and Jessica had recently been spending a lot of time with Isabel. So it was them. A familiar, cold rage began to burn in my chest. The same sense of powerlessness from my past life threatened to overwhelm me, but I clenched my fists, telling myself that this time was different. I used my family's connections, and overnight, every post and account vanished without a trace. I also had someone deliver a warning to Jessica, telling her to back off. I thought that would be the end of it, but I had underestimated Isabel's insanity. That afternoon, I received a picture message from an unknown number. The moment I opened it, my blood ran cold. The photo was of Chloe, tied to a chair with her mouth taped shut. Her eyes were steady, but I could see the fear she was trying to hide. Beneath the photo was a line of text. Ethan, want to play the hero again? The abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. Come alone. This time, we're playing for keeps. A roar filled my ears, the sound of the explosion from my past life, and the phantom smell of blood and burning pain threatened to consume me. It took me a full 10 seconds to claw my way out of that dying memory. My whole body was shaking, not from fear, but from pure rage. Isabel, how dare she? But this time, I wasn't the same fool who let anger cloud his judgment. I forced myself to calm down and immediately did 3 things. First, I called my father, explained the situation as quickly as I could, and told him to use every resource he had to pinpoint the location and get a team on standby. Second, I called the police and gave them all the same information. Third, I found the number for the old burner phone I'd forced Chloe to take, using our arrangement as an excuse. I sent a single message with 3 words, stall for time. I trusted she would understand. The Chloe of this life was no longer the girl who just took whatever was thrown at her. She had her own mind, her own strength. By the time I reached the familiar abandoned warehouse, the sky was as dark and heavy as my mood. I pushed open the creaking metal door and saw a scene almost identical to the one from my past life. Chloe was tied to a chair in the center of the room. Standing beside her was Isabel, her face twisted with hate, and 2 thugs who looked even more dangerous than the last ones. You actually came, Isabel said with a crazed laugh. Ethan, you love her enough to die for her a second time, don't you? I ignored her taunts, my eyes fixed on Chloe. When she saw me, her gaze flickered, and then she gave the slightest glance toward a greasy iron drum behind her. I understood her plan instantly. Let her go. You want me? I said in a low voice, taking a step forward to draw their attention. Too late, Isabel shrieked, holding up a remote detonator, her face a mask of triumph and malice. Today, you're both going to die here. I'm going to show everyone that the woman you love, Ethan Carter, will still die because of you. Really? I stopped and looked at her, not with fear, but with pity. Isabel, you're pathetic. My words enraged her, but just as she opened her mouth to scream something else, Chloe made her move. Using all her strength, she threw her weight backward, slamming her chair into the greasy drum. It toppled over with a loud clang, spilling thick, viscous motor oil all over the concrete floor. The thug closest to it slipped on the oil, crying out as he lost his balance. That was my chance. I lunged forward like a predator, driving my fist into the other thug's temple without a second's hesitation. At that exact moment, the windows of the warehouse shattered as dark figures swarmed in from all sides. My father's security team and the police. Isabel screamed and frantically mashed the button on the remote. Nothing happened. A police officer stepped forward, kicked the detonator out of her hand, and said coldly, "Don't bother. We blocked the signal before we even came in." Isabel collapsed to the floor in disbelief. I didn't spare her another glance as I rushed to untie Chloe. The moment the ropes fell away, she launched herself into my arms, her body trembling with delayed fear. I held her tight, burying my face in her hair and breathing in her familiar, calming scent. "It's over," I whispered into her ear, again and again. "We're okay." This time we were both alive. In a private room at the hospital, the gash on my arm had been stitched and bandaged. Chloe sat beside the bed, silently peeling an apple with her head bowed. The air between us was heavy, like the quiet that follows a violent storm. After a long silence, she handed me the peeled apple. "Thank you," she said softly. I took it but didn't eat. I just looked at her, at the residual fear in her eyes mixed with her unconcealed worry for me, and the wall I had built around my heart, a wall made of pride and fear, finally came crashing down. I reached into my wallet and pulled out the neatly folded piece of paper, that ridiculous list of Ethan's rules. "Chloe," I started, my voice hoarse, "I've always wanted to ask you, this life, the way you've been with me, is it because you love me, or is it because you feel guilty about what happened before?" She looked up, her lips parting as if to explain. But I didn't let her. I just kept talking. "Actually, the answer doesn't matter anymore, because I've realized that no matter what the reason is, I can't push you away again. I was scared. I was terrified you'd be cold to me again, just like last time. I was afraid of offering you my heart only to have it be for nothing. So I used that childish, stupid list to keep you close, pretending it was just for fun to hide how much I actually cared. I thought it would protect me from getting hurt again." I looked her straight in the eye and said, word by word, "But I was wrong. I was only hurting you, and I was torturing myself in the process." Then, right in front of her, I tore the paper into tiny pieces and dropped them into the trash can. "Ethan," she whispered, her eyes red and swimming with tears. I reached out and gently wiped a tear from the corner of her eye. Then I cupped her face in my hands and kissed her, slowly and reverently. This kiss held none of the old aggression or testing, only the precious feeling of getting something back you thought was lost forever, and the resolve to never let it go again. When we finally broke apart, I rested my forehead against hers. "Chloe," I whispered, "I take back what I said about your affection being worthless because it came late. Your love is my salvation. So, forget that stupid list. Forget all the bad things. Right now, I, Ethan Carter, am officially asking if I can pursue you. Is that okay?" Through her tears, she smiled, and then she nodded firmly. Sunlight streamed through the window, bathing us in its warm, bright glow. I knew, in that moment, that all the pain and regret from our past life had finally been healed, and our new future together was just beginning.